Hello and welcome to Low-Code Campfire from Plant and App. This is episode number 252 for Friday, July 17, 2026. Today we'll talk about how much work is that job, plus, well, anything else you want to talk about. I am Dale Warner, Head of Support for Plant and App, and this is an event that we do most Fridays, 10 a.m. Central Time, where we get together and talk about all things Plant and App at all skill levels. So beginner to expert, you're welcome to join us. We record all these and put them on YouTube, so you can get to that, youtube.com/Plant and App. We'll run this agenda. We'll stop and say hello because we're a friendly group, and then we'll go around the campfire. Anything you want to talk about, we always do first call. Anything you've submitted, which there isn't anything submitted this week, and then contributions to the campfire website, talk about things that are going on in our community, other things, but just a freewheeling discussion. But after an hour or so, we'll go into Afterglow. That's where we turn off the recording, start our weekend with a little virtual adult beverage, and just enjoy each other's company for a few more minutes. So please do jump in, engage with us, however you feel led. You can submit questions and topics in advance, support@plantandapp.com. I'll take a look. I will do a little bit of research, and then after a bit, we'll put it on the agenda, and then we'll get into it here on Fridays. Hello, one. Hello, all.
Hello.
Mm.
Hello, guys.
All right. As promised, we always do first call. What's up?
Quiet for me right now.
All righty.
Oh, wow. Well, I'll tell you, Dale, I'm working on something, and you might say, well, I actually have a better way to do that. In which case, I'd love to hear that. But I I was filling in an action for create a record in one of the tables, and it was a big table, so there was a lot of fields to go through. And what I needed to do was have the field names that were in the form. And I was scrolling up and down and looking for them, copy and paste and bring them down. I thought there's got to be a quicker, faster way to get all these field names and have them spelled correctly and everything. So I've been creating a pop-up form that has all the field names in the form with the square brackets around them and a drag and drop ability to just drop them into the action. And that action and any other action anywhere else, because it'll be floating, it'll be always available. Um, I do have a couple working prototypes, but I was wondering, how are you doing this? What have you figured out how you could do this easily?
Um, so the short answer is I don't have a solution for that. And I think I have a tendency to work on forms that are not as big as what you're working on, so it's less of a problem. But it is a problem that you have to scroll to the top and find the thing and click and get it to get the spelling identical, right? I have suggestions about how you could go about it, but I'd be interested to hear how you are going about it.
Sure. I came up with two ways to accomplish this. One is if the form is in design mode, I came up with a bunch of JavaScript that will create a pop-up. It will evaluate the form in design mode, and it looks for all the right field identifiers. And it creates a list of form fields, puts square brackets around them, makes them draggable. Also, there's a copy button if you prefer copy and paste. And I can just drag it, then it floats. It floats, and I can move it around, and I can just drag a field name down to where it goes, and it drops there. And it's actually quite fast now, since I
Mm-hmm.
have a floating list of field names. Um, if the form is not open in design mode, um, well, that kind of requires. I have a screen that allows me to evaluate multiple modules on the same page, and so I don't always have that particular form open in design mode. So I have a second version which is it's a small form that I can drag onto the page or install there quickly with a button that does the same thing. It evaluates the database to find the field names instead of evaluating the design mode of the form. When it looks at the database, it gets me all the field names, and then the advantage is I can choose which module from that page that I want to work with. It doesn't have to be already open. So does that make sense? I have a floating form with all the
No,
field names now.
it does, and it sounds like you've put a lot of work into it.
I did. But
And I'm going to go on to kind of show how I would have handled that,
sure. Yeah,
but
that's what I'm asking.
uh, I'm not sure that. I mean, the end result is going to be any better than what you've done. So, but before I even get into that, welcome Matt, welcome Patrick, and do either of you have you done any of this?
I'm not absolutely certain what we're talking about. I think I missed the.
You missed the lead up. Well,
Yeah.
the underlying problem is that when you have a form and you have lots of fields, and how do you get the names of the fields when you need them for conditions and things like that?
Hmm.
So dragging and
Yeah.
dropping those things in versus and the mechanism that Plantain app provides, which I guess I can well I can quickly show off here, we have this copy field ID as token, so you can grab the name of whatever this is. This is include users grid. If I hit this button, then it's on my clipboard, and if I were to paste it anywhere, uh, it, it's available on the clipboard. But that, if you have a very tall form, involves scrolling up and down and finding it, and a lot of moving around. So I think I summarized the problem. So again, do you struggle anywhere in this area, or just use the tools that we're already providing?
I mean, I get the struggle. I do use the tools that are already provided. Yeah, I haven't come up with anything custom to deal with it, but
I came up with with a block of JavaScript that would look at this form when it's in design mode, and it produces a floating list of field names with the square brackets already around it. And then
hmm,
it's just simply a drag and drop from that floating list over to whatever I need to put it into, of
nice.
which there's, quite a bit of things really that we need those field names for. So, so it's convenient. And
Hmm.
in this context, I think that block of JavaScript could be placed in using your little icon at the bottom of the Plantain app theme designer, so it could be available on any form and it could be provided in there. But since I don't use that theme, I use a custom theme. I have to come up with a way of getting that. I have to inject that into the Plantain app field, which is where I am when I'm designing the form. So I can do it. If I drop all the JavaScript into the console, and then I've got my floating form and I'm happy. But that's a little clunky. I'm looking for a way to inject that without going into the console each time.
So my potential solution is nowhere near as nice or as advanced, but if I were dealing with something like this, I might use a button with a custom action like show fields, and use the JSON uh, context to JSON object that I'd use. Oftentimes I'd just say tokens. You've seen me do this 1,000 times. So we're storing all of our tokens in something called tokens, and then you could do a display error message of tokens. So you could get more advanced than this, and for example, sort them in alphabetical order or something like that. Wouldn't be that hard to do. So what that would then amount to is any so long as the form is operational and you've got this button, which you would hide from normal users. You've got all the fields, whatever fields that are there. In this case, I have my custom text box, but you could make a nice way to display this. As a matter of fact, I've done it as a contribution where JSON goes to a table. So with a few actions, you could do that, and then you could have, if you put that inside of an execute actions, that you could add this button. You know, if you had this code available, you could add this button to your form in short order, and it would do the work. It's, like I say, it's not as advanced. I mean, there's the things that you're talking about, very cool. Being able to drag and drop and things like that versus copy and paste. But this would be my very low tech way of doing that.
Okay. Thank you. Just thought I'd pick your brain.
Yep. The one of the things that come to mind as you're investing in tool sets like this is that the Forms 2.0 is a completely different beast. So whatever you build here is probably not going to apply. Maybe it can be adapted. I don't know. Maybe you'll have less of a problem with it since the forms are. I don't know. It'll be different, right? When you're trying to do with that, whether it'll be easier or harder. It's, I guess, harder to express at this point, but. Just a small warning there.
Which is a very polite way of saying you're testing my sanity for putting some effort into an old product.
Well, action form is not
It's
going away
very fair.
anytime soon, right? I mean, we're working on Forms 2.0. You're gonna have the opportunity to start using it. It'll be in beta when Forms 2. When Plantain App 2.0 comes out. So I would fully expect it will be years before it's completely replaced. So no danger, but it's just now you're going to have a separate Forms product that will have different characteristics. So how we use that. Yeah, and then as we talk about this, there's another the export here of a form is would have all the field names on it, and this is JSON that would be really quite easy to parse. So however you're scraping them, you might be able to use this. Like if you had a standard utility that you could just copy this and paste it into, that then it would pull out the fields and make them drag and droppable. So this
Good
is
idea.
Another way to discover them. There is an action export. Oh, export module content that you could point to, and this would give you. I mean, it would also be parsable, so it's another way of pulling out the same data. I think this would probably be harder to use, but than, for example, the export. But it's yet one more way of getting the same thing.
And you could put in the module ID, so you could choose whichever module that was on the page, or anywhere for that matter, and it would give you a list of all the fields that are in that module.
Yes. I'm sorry, Matt, you were jumping in?
Yeah, well, it's actually a related question to that module content. I've not used that before. What's the basic what's the basic functionality of that?
Well, let's take a look at it. It'd be too easy to do. So I'm going to open up my test form here. I'm going to add another field, which is going to be it's going to be a large text so that we have a place to put it. I'm going to call it my module content, which I'm going to need this ID here in a moment. We happen to be on, well, it doesn't matter. We'll add a button that will say get module content, and we'll use the action. So click handler, it's going to be export module content. The module ID would be my current module ID, which is 6903, but this makes it portable. And we'll put it here in my module content and add an Ajax. So this is going to export the module and put it into a form field and then do an Ajax so we can just simply see what the content is and then take a look at it. There's an import that goes with this. So if you export a module, you can import it into something else. All right, so get module content. It looks like it's JSON. So we have, or no, that's XML. So we have this XML, all the stuff that has to do with the module. And then somewhere along here, we're going to find the actual content. All right, so there's all that other XML is what's necessary in the DNN ecosystem for, I mean, this is importable as a module within DNN. So then if we look at, if we were to parse this XML and look for the content and all this C data here that's now escaped, which is a little bit ugly, but all this stuff is your form definition, which is the same thing, essentially, well, close to what you would get if you did that. So anyway, this, first, does that answer your question? What does this thing do?
Yes, and then the question is, if you have an export module, what would be the use case for this?
So if you had, it's limited, but it's possible. If you had the reason that we built this was actually for one of our clients, frequent flyer Ben, requested this a long time ago. The use case would be that if you, let's say you had a master system and you wanted to automatically export your forms and listings from your master source system to to one or more subsystems. So you want the exact same form on another system. If you know the module IDs, you could export it from your master system and then use the corresponding import action on your subordinate systems and transport code. It's limited. It'll do modules, module export import, but lots of things in Plant and App are not modules. So you won't be able to do everything, and there are limitations from the standpoint that some actions in a form, for example, refer to field IDs, excuse me, like form IDs. Like if you were to try and if your form has a button that doesn't open form in Popup, and that is referred to by an ID on the subordinate system, it might be a different ID. Almost certainly it will be. So you've got to take extras. If you're going to use this for that use case, you'd have to be very careful to on how you deal with that kind of a circumstance. It changes your coding a little bit.
Yep.
You could also use it to make backups of your modules and store them away if you want to be able to restore them. But this content here, if we were to, I mean, just to kind of show off, hopefully I can do this. If we add a new action form module, by the way, I copied that, put it on my clipboard. So if we were to add a new action form onto this page, we should be able to import it just using the DNN functionality. I'm going to put it over here so it's clear that this is a completely different form. And if I use the import content, paste that same content into it, we now have the same, it transported. It's just like exporting, importing a module. It's just a wrapper around these two functions.
It's a DNN level as opposed to a Plantain app level.
Right. So these are core DNN functions that you could, I could have done this same thing by exporting this module here and grabbing the content and then importing it here. So this export module content is just a wrapper around DNNs.
Yep.
And then there's should be a corresponding action import module content. So you could do the same thing, provide that same content back on some other module ID, and it'll overwrite that module. So,
Which I have used this in the past to bring a module into a page that existed elsewhere in the site. And it's very useful for, like, if you want to bring a module in that does a special thing on one of my tools, this is a pretty quick way to do it, to bring it into the page.
Yep.
Dale, can you go ahead?
No, I was just going to say, you've talked before about having a floating tool, and you could have your floating tool could have an export of something that you then move to another field, another form, sorry, another page, and import to a different form. Absolutely.
So when you put that form in back in design mode, there's a big export button and import button at the top. How is that different? Because I do have an observation to make, but how is that different or the same as the DNN export and import?
It's different in several ways. One is that it starts out being JSON. So this would be, you wouldn't have to first parse XML, which isn't that hard, but you just start out with it as XML. And then the second thing is this is a good representation of all the fields and buttons, but this export fields doesn't export events and settings. So this is this export import functionality is very good for the stuff that's on this page, but it's not a way of duplicating a form. But it would be good for what you're if you want to be able to parse fields, find the fields that are on the form, the buttons that are on the form, and present them in a nice list. You could do that with this very easily.
Okay, so that's just fields. Is that right? The export and import up there?
Yeah, fields and buttons are a field as well. So yes.
Fields and buttons. Because I did try to use that a day or two ago, and I was disappointed to find out that it didn't bring in all the actions that were associated with the form itself, the events.
Right.
And I'm like, why is this not complete? I thought there must be a reason for it, but
well, it was never, I don't think the intention was ever to fully export the form. It was to be able to transfer the fields, and it's just a limitation. It's what it was designed for, but not
okay.
maybe what and we probably could do a better job of explaining what it is that it's doing, but it's not a full form export.
But to clarify, the export module at the DNN level would also include events and settings?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a very nice distinction.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Good question. So, if you're inclined, Mark, to make a short video sometime kind of showing this floating thing and how you use it, I'd be happy to put it in front of our production team and point out that it's uh, a need, something, a field. It's essentially a field browser, right?
Mhm.
And I mean, I wouldn't put a lot of effort into it. I think I can explain it, but it would be useful. I think it's going to become at least as useful and maybe it's something that we can get built into the new forms product. Um, we should bring it up at least as a suggestion, get it into the backlog.
That would work out well. Yeah, the JavaScript version evaluates the form in design mode and finds all the fields. So it could be incorporated in any form in design mode. It would be ideal.
Well, and in our forms 2 product, I mean, I'm sure we know internally we have a nice
Yeah.
way of getting the list of fields and being able to click and drag. Probably a good time to mention. Um,
Mark, can I ask you just a quick question about
Sure.
earlier I heard you referring to you have two uses for it. It's when the form is in design mode and when you're just on the page itself. Did I hear that correctly? And wondering
Yeah.
when the form is not in design mode, it's just on the page itself, what's it doing then?
It pops up a list of the field names that are in use on whatever form you choose from that page. Like it's got a drop down for module IDs. So you can
Oh, I
choose
see.
which of the forms, but once you choose it, then it'll pop up a list of all the field names in it.
Okay.
And I would use it because what I do is it's floating. So I just drag it off to the other monitor and then get in design mode and go at it.
Okay.
Drag fields over to it.
Cool.
Actually, doing it that way, having it on the page itself was an attempt to alleviate the issue that I'm having where the JavaScript needed to be on the page in design mode.
Hmm.
And my biggest way would be to drop it into the console, and I thought that was clunky. So I'm putting it on the page. I have a form on every page anyway. It's my custom tools page. It has all my tools. So I just added it to the tools page.
Okay. Nice.
If you're ready, I have a question.
I'm ready.
All right. So when you run a workflow at the end of the test, it puts up a nice summary of whatever your output is, plus the time it took to process. Is there is that number available anywhere, secret and hidden? Or do you have recommendations for a good way to capture processing time? Doesn't have to be down to the millisecond. Here's the reason is that certain processes that clients want to do will be taking a fair amount of processing time. So what I want to do is look at the possibility of similar to a token, an AI token charging based on processing time.
Um, so first of all, I'm having flashbacks because I think that was how computers were sold in the 70s and 80s.
I know, timeshare.
Exactly. But to answer your question, to my knowledge, there is not a direct way to access the token. But if you were to um, Actually, I'm going to make a note. This is essentially is CPU time per workflow. One of the
Mhm.
things that, and are you talking about CPU time or elapsed time, or maybe both?
Yes, I think. Just time. In other words, if you as a user are going to be tying up server resources,
Mhm.
whether that's whatever form that takes, then it makes sense, at least from my perspective at this point, to have the ability to um, charge based on that utilization.
Sure.
So,
Well, and that makes perfect sense. I know, for example, we have people who, or even I use a server that is AWS based, and it's X price. And if I have to, if it's not powerful enough, and I've got to bump it up to the next higher level, it's more cost. So
mhm,
it's a very real thing.
yep.
So um, in the short term, what I can suggest is that if you call a workflow from another workflow, the wrapping workflow could get the start time and the end time and compute seconds.
Yeah.
Very brute force, very straightforward. But if you're going to be logging the time anyway, you almost need some kind of macro thing to do that, unless you're going to. I mean, you would either have to have a wrapping workflow in order to capture it, or you're going to have uh, some other. I mean, does each workflow have some awareness of the need to capture the time, right? Another, just as a suggestion, if you one. By the way, I'm going to give you the what you can do today, and then the what might happen down the line. So on the what you can do today standpoint, another would be to create an entity with I started work at and I ended work at records that you could then
Mhm.
parse after the fact
Yeah.
and know, right?
Similarly, I think I could just simply, when someone requests a workflow, and I'm ultimately in this case updating a database table. So I could timestamp the start time immediately in the table entry and then timestamp the completion time at the end of the effort.
Yes.
Mhm. Okay.
So um and actually, okay, now I'm trying to remember in tokens. Core tokens, if there's a CPU, it seems like we've been here before that there's a ticks. Um, nope. There might be a way to get CPU time, um, but I can't remember. Does anybody have a recollection of this? Date time. Anyway, it wouldn't surprise me if there was either a token or you could build a token that would retrieve CPU time. So then you could do the same thing before and after.
Mhm.
But I'm not certain about that one.
Yep. Okay.
So,
Thank you.
but your question bumps into something that I wanted to show anyway today, and it's a work in progress, and there's a future part of it. So if we go to Campfire, I'm going to show the newest Campfire contribution. We have something called automation job statistics. And this is a SQL query that goes out and looks at every automation job. And based on the history, it's got how many times it ran in the last 24 hours. And so I have a job that I've set up that's running once an hour. So it's run 24 times. How long did it run? So automations are automatically logging this history stuff, and you could use this as if you're doing it through automations, you could use this as a tracking tool. But um, our purpose in building this query was trying to figure out high frequency jobs. It's basically the same things. It's not necessarily for charging for server time, but for figuring out if we set up things that are efficient. So, for example, when we went to looking on this on one of our production servers, there were certain jobs that were running, uh, ended up being executing for 8 hours in a day, uh, uh, with thousands of iterations. Um, and so then you can ask the question, okay, just like when you're hunting down disk space, you go to the biggest thing first. This is the same thing. You go to a job that's using a lot of resources, and is this doing what we think it is? Is it can we make it better?
Yep,
So
makes sense.
the and actually our plan is to um, include this as an alert on our new dashboards. So it'll show you all of your jobs that are running for a long time and with warnings, so that you would be able to dig down into this without having to do this research. But I'm giving you the tool now if you wanted to get into it. And the question, the usability, the value of this has kind of been put off because we don't have access to CPU time, and we've opened a development card to log the CPU time that jobs took. Uh, we think we can capture that, and so it is likely that our history table. Let me see where I am here. Yeah, in automation. So we've got this table that's behind the history here. We'll start to capture CPU time as well, and then this this job statistics 24 hours would be able to not only show you how things that are running long, but also running hard and running frequently. So give you a lot of tools to work with to check for your performance. So we're in the same neighborhood, Matt.
Oh, good to know.
And I will um, because we're already there, I will expand that card to ask if there's any way we can deliver CPU time on workflows. It would be, I mean, I'm just imagining here now, but if we were to look at any workflow, and if you could get a token, if we provided it as a total workflow, something that you could access here at the end of your workflow and log your CPU time, something like that. So I'm thinking maybe we reveal it as a token.
In this case, that might be helpful, yes. Ready for my next question?
I am.
All right. So you create an entity, it creates the listing in the form. It's all good. Then my experience has been I go back and add fields to that entity, and it tends to show up on the form, but I've had experience where it does not show up in the list of available fields in the listing module. And I've done things like, refresh the browser, clear cache, and so on and so forth. And it just does not seem to, I don't know how to make it respond. Let's put it that way.
Okay. I was starting off thinking that maybe I would just give a smart answer like, well, if you'll bribe the support guy, I'll tell you how to do that. But no, it's really not that. That is an issue, and it it tends to happen. All right, when we have these automatically created assets when you create or modify an entity, and I would expect those to work 100% of the time, but and because when you um, when you edit an entity and say save and merge changes, that merge changes causes that to look at your connected listing and add fields to it. So it knows to do that. But if you have a listing that's not connected to it, one way that can happen is you can create a listing and use an entity data source. So a very common thing to do. It's not connect. It's connect. Hey, maybe we should just do it. But so let's try this. I have one that we do here all the time. That's book. If we were to add a new property to book, um, the short answer is you got to trick Action Grid to go look for this stuff. And I'll try and get there. So let's make a test and show this. So we're going to create a new test. Test is going to be called new field in book. And so we'll create a quick test. So here's what I'm talking about. We're gonna change this. I've got a listing here, and I'm just going to change it all up to get rid of these fields. This is just trying to get to it, basically an empty entity. So we're going to create book as or use the books entity as our source. We're going to add name and date published and ID. Add those fields. And so we get so this listing is disconnected from, it's not the entity. Sorry.
Not the system created
Not the
listing.
system created one, and it's going to be my custom books. So if I now go and add I'm going to ignore my misspelling, and we're going to go into books, properties. We'll add a new property that's called Campfire. It's a text field. I'm going to make it as filterable. Merge it. So somewhere I have an entity created linked listing that if I go back out to book, and we'll find it using this. This is where it exists. So this is the one that was previously created, and hopefully I'll have my new field in my form and in my listing. So we have a campfire field here. If we edit it, it's in the form, and we can say update, and it works. So the connected one is modified automatically. Now we go back to this one, and it's disconnected. We're going to go and edit the thing. And we want to add that, and we looked at it, and it's called Campfire, and it's not in the list. So this is the problem I think that you're encountering. It's not in the list.
Right, except that yours showed up on the system created version. And what I'm seeing is it on mine, it does not show up on that system created version. But what you're showing here is the same problem, a different viewpoint of it.
Right. So
Well,
it's okay, and let me it's possible for you to disconnect a listing from the entity. I think it can be done. Patrick can help me here, but I think it can be done by renaming the module outside of Plant an App. So in any case, it is possible to get it disconnected, and so at the point that it's disconnected, the merge doesn't work anymore. But either way, you've got the same problem, and so
right,
now
right.
how do I solve the problem? Um, I believe we can do this by forcing PlantApp to reconsider the grid tool, the listing tool, to reconsider the data source. And so I believe if I change the where clause, it causes it to go out and reread it. And so if I now it's here.
Okay.
So this is a small bug in listings where listings doesn't always go out and reread the entity until you make some kind of a change on the data source. And at that point, it rereads it. This also comes into play, for example, if you like, if I want to add, if I add this new field and add it, the field is filterable. What so because I said it was when I defined the entity, what you can run into is that if you have a field on a form that's not filterable, you decide that you want, I said on a listing that
Yeah.
is, and the field was defined as not filterable, you go into the entity and you change it to filterable, and then you go to your listing and you come to the listing and this box is grayed out. It's because the listing module brings in the definition of the entity at the point where when it's defined, and it doesn't reread it. So if you do this same thing where you make any kind of change to a where clause, and you can just set, you could just, even if you have a where clause, you could just say and one, one equals one. Anything that's valid will be detected as a change. It'll go out and read it, and then all the properties like filterable will be reread. So those two cases, when you're trying to add a field or there's a change to these properties, can be
Field
overcome
status,
by
yeah.
forcing the reread. Wouldn't it be nice if we had a button here that says reread, do it again?
Yeah.
Or
Well,
even it just
that's
would detect that it had changed, but yeah.
in my case, I did something along the same lines. I just switched to SQL and I just said select star, which
Yep.
worked. So
Yes, you can, yeah, you can do it that way. But with it, if you want to leave it as an entity data source, this is the way to trick it to go reread it.
okay, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Good one. All right. Maybe I'll pick something else here. Last week we touched on Forms 2.0 migration. I had an update, particularly for Mark, just in the short, because he helped me discuss this. The short term, we talk about the changes to class, and at this point, we've made note of the possibility that we might want to return some of the functionality of the styling, but we think what we've done is the right answer, so we're going to get it out there, and then evaluate. So there's that. Would anybody like to see what migrating from action form looks like, or did every one of you already watch the video from last week?
I did not, but I also don't want, it's going to get you off track. Don't do it. But be interested.
Oh,
Yes, please.
Yeah.
yeah, let's do it. All right, so what I have here is a simple action form. It has one field on it, and I'm going to open it in, I'm going to do a manage form here. So we have a phone field that has some settings on it. It's got some initial values and some countries and things like that. And this holds true. There's nothing specific. I would just happen to be testing the phone field, but any and all fields will be here. And then I've got a button that's got an action which just displays the values so that the form, when it starts, works out. I click the button, we see all the values that, so we see the phone value. Nothing terribly involved. So at version 2.0, we have this new button, migration plan. Migration plan shows you how it's going to migrate, and it starts out with form settings, and it's green is everything that it's going to migrate. Yellow is everything that is getting mapped, and so you might want to think about that. Red is the things that it's going to skip because there is no equivalent. Mark and I discussed some great changes to this, and Mark, all those were approved. So we're going to have less noise in this and better representation and being able to refer back to this after the fact. But for right now, we just see it in this one place before we do the migration. It's a plan. So there's a form settings, and then you get to the form events, which there aren't any. Then we get to fields. And so our phone field is going to get migrated, and we can see all the different ways that it's going to get migrated. You hit start migration, you get a forms 2.0 form defined for you that's the same name but with copy appended to it, and you hit save. And now this has been sorry, I lost my place here. I was in, yeah, here's where I started. Sorry about that. Got lost. So now we have our original and we have our copy. And when you click the button still works, and it's showing the phone field shows more information than the original. So the original showed the value, and that was it. And when we hit this one, we still have the phone value, same value, but now we get other things like the country code and
Yeah, that one right there.
the local formatted, all these different varieties. So you get, or the country prefix, you get to pick, you get a lot of information to draw from going forward. But that's at a very high level what you'll see. There'll be a migration button. It is non-destructive against your action form. It adds a Forms 2.0 onto the same page with the migration. The one of the things that Mark suggested, and apparently Mark was already in the works, was that when you edit a field, excuse me, a form that's been migrated, that the migration plan is visible. Apparently it's stored behind the scenes someplace inside this, but not revealed. But somewhere in the UI, we're going to make it so that you'll be able to review the migration plan so that you would be able to see item by item what moved and what didn't move, and help point you to the things that you're going to need to do to make it work. So that's a very high level. Did I raise any questions?
No,
That's a
it's
great
exciting to
plan.
see.
Yeah, I like it.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm going to go back to the where we started today, Mark, talking about the field chooser, which would be again a nice feature to have a floating field chooser on this canvas. But one of the things to know is that we have like this enable dynamically thing, and so we have this is the equivalent of that the bind enable in action form. And at the moment, the uh, fields are available by the JavaScript construct fields dot field name dot value. So like this one is showing fields dot country dot value or fields dot price dot value dot trim dot length. It's giving you some examples, but they're not available in the token um, format. So this is going to be an area. I'm just telling you where we are in the migration. I don't this the at the moment these fields will migrate, but they won't work because it's if you've referred to a token like a field token that you're trying to enable dynamically against, the syntax would be off. So this is I don't know whether it will change between whether the tokens will be available here or whether whether they will not, and you might need to be converted. But anyway,
Okay.
I'm just being transparent about where we are in the process. I don't know how that's going to land,
Okay.
but this JavaScript syntax um, will have benefits, as you can already see. You know, we have the being able to get the a more advanced dot value dot trim dot length rather than just using a token construct. It's a more straightforward JavaScript, so you can get some JavaScript, some different functionality out of it. But um, whether we'll support the old syntax is unknown to me.
This looks like it'll simplify writing JavaScript against your fields um, very nicely. It'll simplify stuff.
Well, I think that I agree. Um, Last week, we have 2 more minutes. I'll just make some mention. Last week, we talked quite a bit about the idea that for CSS classes that were in action form, you have two different classes, one on the um, label, one on the field itself, and then the ability to style the field itself or the label. And we're going now towards adding a class just for the root of the element and letting you style it from there. It's and that's the thing that we view this as an improvement from the standpoint that by getting to the root of a field, you can style anything. But there's it will definitely be a change. I was reminded, and of course, I was the guy that worked on the development of it, so I was reminded of the work that I had previously done. But there are lots of built-in styles that are useful in here anyway, that you might be able to take advantage of even without adding your own styles to. So, for example, in a phone field, I can't. Give me a second here. I'm going to put it on the bottom. But whatever every Forms 2.0 field, what am I looking at here? Console. I moved it. Nothing works now. How did I do that?
Try inspecting again.
I will do it. Do you enjoy watching me struggle?
Yes, it's quite fun.
Ah, there it is. I finally found it anyway. There was an X to click. All right, here we go. Inspect phone. There are a number of automatically generated classes, so that every field will get, and so every field will get a PAA field class. So if you just, I mean, you can style every PAA field with that one. There's a PAA field phone. So this is every phone field on the page will have the class PAA field phone. So you'll have field phone, field text, field rich text, whatever. Um, so you can make the same change to every one of those. You can do it by name. So the field name of uh, this is the name of the field, right? Not the name that you assign to it. This is the type of field. This is the name of the field. Um, then we also have these whether or not it's required and whether or not it's enabled and whether or not it's valid. So we're giving you a lot of things that you can style by default and without you providing a custom class name, but you can also provide a custom class name.
So this is all new, right? So you're
Right.
basically giving us an already custom class for the field without us even having to put in a class name.
Correct.
The PA field phone, yeah.
And I'm going to say I'm going to put home phone here so that I can maybe
Yeah.
better illustrate. So we go back to inspect on that. So this is the one for every phone
All
field will be called
right.
PAA field phone, and then anything, this is the name of it. So you can style by field name this way, style by type, or by any kind of PAA field. So there's lots of pre-built classes and shouldn't have to do your custom class quite so much. All right. This worked out. I have some stuff left for next time, but we've hit our hour, so I'm gonna call it here. And thank you all for joining us. We look forward to, if you could have a few minutes, you can join us for Low-Code Campfire Afterglow. Glad that you all joined. We will see you next time.